I became a multi-platinum music producer by making melodies for artists like Lil Baby, Lil Durk, Pooh Shiesty, and Chris Brown. But here's something that might surprise you. I don't know how to play an instrument, I don't know any high-level music theory concepts, and I don't know how to read music. So today I won't be giving you a surface-level tutorial on music theory or showing you how to make samples for a random genre of music, because that's not actually what you need. What you need to understand are the principles behind why certain melodies get placements and other melodies don't. Then you need to know how to use these principles in your own music. So in this video, I'm giving you my 5-step process to improving your melodies quickly. I guarantee if you do all of these steps, your melodies will get better. So before you even start making melodies and opening up your DAW, open up your piano roll, I see you about to get ready. You need to choose a style of melodies to master. Trying to learn every melody style at once is like trying to learn every single different type of instrument at once. If you do that consistently, sure, you might become okay at best, but you'll never become great at any of them. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to making melodies. One week you're making R&B melodies, next day you're making Afrobeat melodies, next day you're trying to make trap stuff. And it's like all your stuff sounds mid because you haven't chosen to focus. Or you might even be in a worse position where you're just clicking stuff in, hoping that something eventually works and sounds right. And we've all been there before, but that's not a good way to go about it. Choosing one sound to focus on gives you clarity and allows you to achieve better results. Different sounds have different chord progressions. There's different sound selection. There's different bass lines. There's different overall vibes in a Memphis beat versus a Pain beat. Many great producers start by just locking into one sound first. For me, it was a Lil Baby 4PF style popularized by the producer Quay Global. I just locked into that sound, got really good at it, and then I started to create my own style off of it. And then eventually I got into creating other sounds. But that period of focus on that one sound allowed me to get placements with guys like Lil Baby. So choose a sound to focus on first. It could be a subgenre of hip hop. It could be like Rod Wave style Pain or Lil Durk style Pain, because they could be different. It could be Future style trap. It could be new jazz. You know what I'm saying? It could be anything. But to keep it real, choosing one sound will not matter at all if you don't do this next step. The next step is daily active listening. How can you expect to get better at a style of music that you're not constantly listening to? Imagine you're a chef and you're trying to cook authentic Italian food, but you've never tasted authentic Italian food. How do you think that your food is going to come out? Even if you read recipes, your stuff is not going to come out tasting like authentic Italian food because you've never actually tasted it. It's the same with these different styles of music. If you're not actively listening to the style that you're aiming to create, you might make some music that sounds kind of like it, but never really sounds on point. Listening trains your taste, which is extremely hard to teach someone. It helps you to develop an ear for what actually sounds good. This isn't something that you can force or fake. You have to absorb the vibe and let it sink into your subconscious. But here's the key. You can't just listen passively. You have to listen actively, which means that you have to listen to the chord progressions, the bass lines, the instruments that are being used, the type of effects being used, the way the energy of the beat flows, the movement of the melody. Is it fast paced? Is it slow paced? All of these things you have to take into account when you're doing your active listening so that you could take those principles the next time that you make a melody. You could use what you've learned. So if you want to get started with your active listening, one thing that you can do is you can build a playlist. So let's say you've chosen the Memphis inspired sound to focus on at first. You might say, okay, well, I need a playlist of all the old greats, 3 6 Mafia. Then I need some classics, Young Dolph, Moneybagg Yo, Yo Gotti. And then maybe I need some standout artists, Glorilla, Tay Keith. And you just want to listen all the time. That way that you can feel what the music is really saying to you. Feel the vibe. Like, why is it still Memphis back then and Memphis now? Like, what's the similarities between it all? Like, what is that spirit of the music? And that's something that you just have to internalize so that when you go to create, it's already in you. But no matter how many songs you got on that playlist, nothing works if you don't actively immerse yourself in that sound. Like, you have to listen as much as possible. One of my coaching students, Sphinx, did this, and his melodies went from sounding like this to sounding like this. After a few weeks of active listening and coaching by me. If you want this kind of rapid progress and you need help with getting your melodies better, getting your beats better, reaching out to artists, building a producer brand for yourself, then click the link in the pinned comment and description to see if you would be a good fit for my one-on-one mentorship program. But just listening to music alone is not enough. This next step is what actually transforms your ideas into real composition. Now it's time to actually create the music that we're aiming to create. And to keep things simple, we're going to use a 4-step melody making process that you can repeat in order to make melodies that sound fire every time. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the bass line. If you listen to that old 3 6 Mafia, all that type of stuff, you're going to hear certain bass lines. You're going to hear it in the newer stuff too, like with Glorilla and stuff like that. You're going to hear certain bass lines. All different styles have different bass lines. Dun, dun. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do our repeating pattern, just the main vibe of our melody. And of course, this comes from a Memphis inspiration. So we're going to do something that has that sort of vibe. A lot of times in that sort of music, you'll hear something where it might go start on the root note and then go down like dun 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 dun. Yeah, that's hard. So this is our repeating pattern right here. So now you see here, I have some variation in the second half of the melodies. So right here is, this part is, just adding that little variation can do a lot to a melody, make it sound more interesting, make it sound better. So let's figure out and understand why this melody even works. It's something that you can remember. It's something that you can kind of pick up on with your ear. And that's what you want your melodies to be. You want them to be so pleasing that you could just listen to them and the vibe is just there. So there's this idea of repetition, but there's also this idea of catchiness that you want to be in your melody. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a counter melody. So we see this idea of variation once again, like we have this repeating pattern. And listen to how this is a melody that you can hum almost. You want all your melodies to have that sort of vibe. It just makes everything sound better when all your melodies are like hummable or whistleable or singable. They just are catchy to your ear. Now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna add some ear candy. We're gonna add some effects to it and bring it all together. So with our pad, add some vintage verb to it. With our bell, we're gonna add some reverb to it. We're gonna EQ it a bit. Add some ear candy. And that's our whole melody. Let's see what it sounds like with a beat. Then we got it. So now what I like to do is I like to arrange. So this is step 4. Arrange your melodies in a way that's going to be easy for a producer to put a beat on and pleasing to the listener who's listening to the music. What I like to do personally is I like to render my melody tracks out and then use the rendered tracks to create the arrangement. Just starting off, the first part, I'll just keep it just simple. And then I'll bring in the variation in the second half. See how I got variation going all the way through? I might bring this up an octave. So now this arrangement goes along with, you know, the normal trap arrangement of a 8-bar chorus and a 12-bar verse. And I will then send my melody out. Now imagine making 10 melodies like this, then 20, 30, 100. You will get better. There's a formula here. We got our bass line, we got our main melody, we got a counter melody, and then we got some ear candy. This is how all melodies are made. Things can get more intricate. Things can be even more simpler than this. But this right here is the, I would say, industry melody blueprint. So now that you have the arrangement, the final thing you need is reps. That's number 5. You need reps. You need to put the time in, put the energy in to make as many melodies as you can. And then once you start to do that, you'll start to branch out. You start to create your own vibe because you just start to feel it more. There's certain melodies that I make where I just do some things to them in the moment. They just sound crazy. And I'm like, yo, this sounds right. I need to do this. And now I'm able to create different sorts of sounds, stuff that sounds really like me versus just sounding like a carbon copy of something that's already out. Because eventually you want to get out of just looking at a sound, creating the vibe that you're making off of the sound, and get into creating the vibe that you're making based on your vibe. But now how can you make that work for yourself? Well, you'll only learn through reps, putting the work in, putting the time in, spending as much time as you can in front of that laptop in that studio, making the melodies that you want to create. Implement these steps the next time you make some melodies and do it consistently. It's Nile Waves. Peace.